Once we have learned how the thought of creation to do good to his creations operates in the Kli that was created and brings it to receive light in order to bestow in every way, everything possible except a stony heart. Which is called Lev HaEven. Now we will learn what this system exists for, meaning the Creator created a Kli, a vessel, a will to receive through the light. And this Kli, this vessel, received as much as it could in order to bestow, both directly, which is called the world Adam Kadmon, and also after the breaking, when Malchut was mixed with Bina, and the world's Atzilut, Bria Yetzirah Asiya came out. The special thing about them is that Malchut entered Bina and gave to Bina all the attributes of Malchut, so that Bina now understands and knows how to monitor, how to supervise, how to correct Malchut. So what happens is that light comes down from the Creator and divides its bestowal into the 5 Parzufim of Ak, Galgalta, Ab, Sag, Ma, and Bon. Nefesh, Ruach, Neshama, Chaya, Yechidah. Afterwards, this light entered Zad de Bina, Sag, and from Sag it went on to Gal and Zat of Bina. Gal de Bina is actually Chokhmah. It's like Mochastim Ma'ah, like the heads, Roshim, of the world of Atzilut. Ak in itself is like Keter, and Zat de Bina are Abba Ve'ima, De of Atzilut, which are whose Zat de Bina, were elicited in the Kalilut, in the mingling of Malchut and Bina. We learned where it happened. We learned that it happened. Yes, we had Parzuf, Nekudot de Sag, which descended and received from Nehi de Galgalta, Nehi of Galgalta, the impression of Dalet Gimel, 4/3, and was restricted. So that Malchut in Nehi de Galgalta mixed with Bina in Nekudot de Sag. And all the Zivugim, the couplings that came out afterwards in the world Nikudim, in Katnut, in smallness, and in the Gadlut of the world Nikudim, the greatness of the world Nikudim, or adulthood, where the breaking was, they were in the form of they were in such a way that Malchut was mixed with Bina. Afterwards, Olam Atzilut came out of the breaking. The world of Atzilut came out from Rosh Sag. It was elicited on the remnants of the breaking. It is Galgalta Einayim, vessels of bestowal, the attributes of Bina. And from the mingling, the Kalilut of Malchut and Bina, we get 3 more worlds, Bria, Yetzirah, Asiya. So the whole system, if we draw it here, This is Gar, the upper three of Atzilut. Then we have Zat, the lower seven of Atzilut, Zon, and the parts of Zon are Bria, Yetzirah, Asiyah. So this whole system is in fact intended, ready to correct the creature, future creature, because it contains every possible incorporation of Malchut in Bina, except Leva Even, the stony heart. Leva Even, the stony heart, is that part of creation that cannot be corrected because it cannot mingle with Bina. So why is this system capable of being responsible for the birth and evolution and correction of the creature? Because it contains all the possibilities of Hitkalelut, incorporation or of the creature to receive in order with the attributes of the giver. Malchut in Bina. And the future creature should be not the incorporation of Malchut in Bina, but the incorporation of Bina in Malchut, where in the creature the attributes of bestowal would enter and render it a possibility for free choice to prefer to be in these attributes on top of being in its own attributes. So this is how it turns out, that after the worlds were created and reached their own Gmar Tikkun, their own end of correction, in as much as they could be through the incorporation of Malchut and Bina in them, now it was the time for the making of the creature. This creature was created from the middle point, the central point. Malchut Dein Sof. The central point of all the circles, the Igulim, the four phases of direct light, Dalet Bchinot Dor Yashar. And this Malchut is integrated at the end of all the worlds. You have the upper light here. It goes through the worlds Ak, Atzilut, Bria, Yetzirah, Asiyah, and is incorporated at the end of all the worlds. And from this point it is created from the integration in them. In order to create this creature, which contains the Hitkalelut, the mixture of Bina and Malchut together, the worlds now have to rise to a level where they can procreate a new Parzuf on this connection. The worlds in and of themselves are in a state, after the scrutiny of all the degrees, where they end at Chazeh de Yetzirah, Chazeh of Yetzirah. Let's say that this is the place of Asiyah and Yetzirah and Bria. And in Chazeh de Yetzirah, that's where the worlds end. at the time of their birth, elicitation. Why? We learned that in order to procreate the worlds, Zon d'Atzilut have to rise to the level of Abba Ve'ima, Pe of Abba Ve'ima. And from there, beget the world. Bria, then Yetzirah, and Asiyah. Above Zon d'Atzilut, Zon d'Atzilut stand at the place of Abba Ve'ima up higher up. We drew it in the previous drawings. So that level is insufficient to procreate the creature. This creature will be called Adam, or Adam Arishon, the first man. Because its function is to be like the Creator in the future. Because of the word resembling, it will be called Adam, man. In order to create Adam, the world must be in a state where Zon d'Atzilut is in Abba Ve'ima. They are there and they beget Adam. So that when Adam is born, the difference between it and the world's Bia is that the world's Bia is an incorporation of Malchut in Bina, whereas Adam is an incorporation of Bina in Malchut. And then Adam was born in such a way that it has within the world Bria Rosh. In Olam Yetzirah it has Garon, the throat, and Guf, the body. The Rosh is the mind. In the middle of Yetzirah, and the Raglaim in the world Asiyah, the legs. That's its Parzuf, or his Parzuf actually. He stands inside the world's Bia. It's a regular Parzuf. It's got 30 Sfirot, Rosh, Toch, Sof. The only difference is between him and the other parts of him is that he was born in such a way that the kelim, the vessels that belong to the lower half of the Parzuf, called Achab, these kelim are restricted. They are not used. Achab is not sorted. He is entirely in a state of Galgal Taveina, Chabad, Chagat, in Kelim, Chagat Nehi, in Orot, in lights. Meaning, he's got Galgal Taveinaim in his Kelim with Nefesh Ruach in the lights. It's Achab is restricted Kelim, meaning Neshama Chaya Yechida in terms of lights. These lights are as yet surrounding. That's the beginning of Adam Arishon, and that's why it says that he was born circumcised. And a part of his kelim are in Atzilut, and a part of his kelim are below the Parsa. We know that below the Parsa, in the world Nikudim and in the world Atzilut, is a place where the upper light cannot appear and bring tikkun, correction to the kelim, but in order to exist and be corrected, the kelim have to rise above the Parsa. The light that brings tikkun, correction, which is called light of Absag, reaches only as low as the Parsa. In order to correct the Kli of Adam Rishon and bring it to Gmar Tikkun, we have to raise it above the Parsa. But if we'd raise it above the Parsa, what would we obtain? We'll draw the same drawing. Places of Asiya, Yetzira, Bria, Zond Atzilut, Abba Ve'ima, Ari Chanpin, Atik, the Tabu, the permanent Tabu, etc. So the worlds stand in such a way that the world Asiya stands up to the Chazeh of the world Yetzirah, the world. That's the word Asiya. Yetzirah stands with its upper half in Atzilut in the lower half. Below the Parsa and the world Bria stands in the place of Zond Atzilut. Why do the worlds Yetzirah clothe half of Bria? Because when Zond Atzilut stand here in their permanent place, they clothe each other in such a way that Zeranpin and Malchut stand in such a way that they clothe one another. That's why anything that comes to the place of Zond Atzilut also acquires the same ratio between the Kilim. Let's say in our case, Yetzirah and Bria clothe themselves or behave like Zond Atzilut. When Adam Rishon was born, from Zond Atzilut that rose to Abba Ve'ima, so he too acquired the same structure. That's his Rosh, that's his Gaon, that's his Guf and Raglaim. That's Adam Arishon when he was born. Afterwards, in order to correct it, you need only to raise it above the Parsa, and then it acquires light of Absag, and is corrected, and the entire Bia is in that completed. And Gmar Tikkun, end of correction, is reached, and the equivalence of that Adam is equal to the thought of to the Creator, and that's the thought of creation. That was the idea in the beginning, but it doesn't work out. As we saw with the breaking of the vessels, it's impossible to raise the Kelim above the Parsa, and in that make them all corrected, because that doesn't create a connection between Bina and Malchut. The connection between Bina and Malchut can be only if there is complete integration of the parts of Bina in all the parts of Malchut, and vice versa, all the parts of Malchut in all the parts of Bina. And this mixture, this mingling, can be obtained only by breaking this Patzuf, just like the Patzuf in the world Nikudim. So it has to be brought to a breaking. How is that made to break? For that comes light, which is called Tosefet Shabbat, the addition of Shabbat, or the supplement of Shabbat. In that light, with that light, all the worlds with Adam Rishon in it rise the first time. They do not ascend because they are in a state of tikkun, correction, but because a special luminescence comes to them from above, which suppresses their uncorrected kelim and raises their corrected kelim so that they all rise. So the whole of Adam Rishon goes 10 sfirot up, where his Parzuf rises so that only his raglaim, his legs, remain below. And in that part which remains below, he doesn't notice that they remain below for two reasons. The first is because that part, the raglaim, is in the upper 6 of the place of the world Bria, which are called the outskirts of the ear of the city. They still belong to the Kelim of Bina. So it was indiscernible that within Bina there are uncorrected desires. And he never used these desires, these kelim, so he didn't know how they are submerged in themselves, not how they are working with the will to receive in order to receive, not for the upper luminescence, but because that's what they are. So in that state when they are still below these kelim, he doesn't wait to perhaps bring them up by receiving this an even greater Tosefet Shabbat addition. This is only the first ascent of Shabbat. First ascent. So he already continues light for himself, extends light for himself, hoping to receive it in order to bestow. In his rosh, he makes a zivug d'aka'ah and extends this light into the guf, into all his kilim. When the light travels through the parsa, here begins the breaking. And as with the case of the world Nikudim, the kelim fall, all his kelim break. So that if he had previously in his part in the world of Tzilut, as it is written in the Torah, in the books of Moses, that he was in the Garden of Eden and could eat from all the trees of the garden, and in the supplement of Shabbat he rose even more. He was only forbidden to eat from the part that is below the parsa, which is a part called the tree of knowledge of good and evil. And these are the trees of the garden. Atzilut is called Gan Eden, the Garden of Eden. So now all his kelim break גלגלת העיניים, החאפ, and of course the mixture of גלגלת העיניים in his החאפ and החאפ in גלגלת העיניים. The benefit is as usual, as in the case of the breaking of the vessels. גלגלת העיניים can be corrected as before. The achap are tested and seen that they cannot be worked with. That's the leva even, the stony heart. It's not the leva even in the world as we had with the correction of the olamot, but it's the leva even in the neshamot, stony heart in the souls. We also have galgalat ha'inayim in achap and achap in galgalat ha'inayim. The hitkaralut, the mixture of galgalat ha'inayim and achap, gives us the ability to test, to examine, to see what we have in the achap, in the ozen and the chotim and the peh. Enter attributes of galgalat ha'inayim, attributes of bestowal, so I can see in each of them what I can correct. So what happens is that I have a tikkun, correction, in some of the kelim, in the incorporation of galgalat ha'inayim and achap. This tikkun is called klipat noga, the noga shell, where there's a part of the achap that is correctable, if you can say that, and there's a part of the achap that goes out to leva even, to the stony heart, to the three impure shells. And the hitkalalut of the achap in galgalat ha'inayim gives one the ability to rise, to ascend. Where besides correcting himself, he also induces greater, further ascents. We'll talk about it. And these are the three ascents that he can bring on himself. How is Adam corrected? And what state he's in? After the breaking in Adam, Adam corrupted his environment, except the worlds of the pure Abiyah, Abiyah de Kedusha, the sanctified Abiyah. Besides that, the worlds Abiyah de Tum'ah were made, the impure Abiyah. And all the worlds descended to their place. The worlds Asiyah, Yetzirah, B'riyah descend below the Parsa to their permanent places. Zonda Tzilut above the Parsa, above Ve'ima, etc., up to the general Tabu. That's Biyah de Kedusha, the pure Biyah. And besides that, he has B'riyah, Yetzirah, Asiyah correspondingly, standing opposite them. Biyah de Klipa, it's called, the Biyah of the shells. And Adam is in his broken kelim. He's writing broken kelim of Adam Rishon. So he's between the two systems and lives within them. As he was born in the world's Biyah, while he's in his broken kelim, he's still in these worlds within them, and the only thing that's added is Biyah de Klipa, the impure Biyah, which in fact helps Adam see the corruption in him, and the Bia de Kedusha, the pure Bia, brings him lights for correction, for tikkun. One side, the left side, is the side of the Klippa that brings uncorrected kelim, or illuminates into the broken kelim, which are felt as uncorrected in Adam. And then he turns to the Bia de Kedusha, to the holy Bia, to the pure Bia, and gets lights for tikkun from them. So then Adam feels that he's in between the systems of Kedusha, that's purity, or the pure system, or Bina, or Galgalta Einayim, you can call it. And then there's the Klipat Noga, the Noga shell, which he sorts and examines out of the incorporation of Bina and Malchut together, because Galgalta Einayim fell into the Achab. So from these scrutinies comes the discernment in his Kelim de Kabbalah, which of them he can add to Hashpa, to bestowal. So then he finds that the Klipat Noga is the primary thing for which the breaking happened. And he's got the Achab, the breaking, which is the three impure klipot. Their names are Ruach Se'ara, stormy wind, Anan Gadol, great cloud, and Esh Mitlakachat, flaming fire. I'm going to use the words in Hebrew. They correspond to the world Asiyah, Yetzirah, and Bria. You can write them here. These are names we often run into. Ruach Se'ara, stormy wind, Anan Gadol, great cloud, and Esh Mitlakachat, flaming fire. And Noga is the scrutiny between, from the broken kelim, where Galgalta Einayim entered the Achab, and Adam, from his Achab, sorts out those kelim that can be related to Kedusha, to sanctity or purity. And so his whole scrutiny is free choice, the sensation of Adam, and his sensation of self. Right? It's all in Klipat Noga, because in fact, the kelim of Achab come from the Creator, from that clay that the Creator created. And the Kelim de Kedusha also come from the Creator, from the attribute of the Creator. So Klipat Noga is only that place, encounter between vessels of bestowal and vessels of reception, the attribute of bestowal and attribute of reception. In between them, that's where one feels his freedom, not being under the domination of the Creator, not from the perspective of the lights or the perspective of the kelim, and can determine his selfness. And that is what makes him called Adam, according to his scrutiny in Noga. And the scrutiny of this Noga is, in fact, in the world of Tikkun, the world of Atzilut. They do not end in the worlds, but there's a descent to the state where there really is free choice, where the Galgalta Einayim and Achab, the Itkalut of Galgalta Einayim and Achab, in these discernments, the world's Bia of Kedusha and Bia of sanctity and the impure Bia operator, where one knows where he is and can scrutinize in his broken keli, but the whole system comes down to a level that is below the machsom, below the barrier. Below the barrier. Below the barrier, the machsom, there are also seemingly two forces, good and bad, that operate on the broken kli in order to bring it to correction. But the special thing here below the machsom is that one is in darkness, meaning unaware that he is in the nature of the Creator. If he is in a sensation of good and bad and feels the Creator and feels himself being in the broken states, as the Torah tells us that Adam was in the Garden of Eden and was ashamed and put himself on himself some clothing and then hid from the Creator who was seemingly looking for him in the Garden of Eden. So this is how one feels where he is. He feels his kilim compared to the environment where he is, compared to the lights, the attributes of the Creator. And then he doesn't have free choice. He immediately determines his state out of the necessity of where he is compared to the attributes of bestowal. In that state there cannot be choice. Choice can only be where one is, where one doesn't feel that he's being compelled to choose the good, but that he himself, first of all, decides what good is, discerns what good is, seemingly builds for himself the environment of the pure and impure bia, and then out of this discernment, these discernments that one built for himself, a ladder of values, so to speak, scale, in it he begins to grow. Otherwise there cannot be a free choice. And then we can say that a person operates, otherwise we can say that one operates out of necessity. He sees what's good, what's bad, so of course he chooses the good. This process that occurs, that is happening, happens below the machsom, the barrier, where there is no spiritual reception and bestowal, and this is called this world. Meaning we have the continuation of the process, where, as we have said, we were first in the four pchinot of Or Yeshav, direct light, and then in the world Ein Sof, the Tzimtzum, the Masach, Adam Kadmon, Nekudot Desag, alright, Tzimtzum Bet, Bina and Malchut, that were together in one Patzuf, and then the breaking, where Bina entered Malchut. There's already joining, the tikkun, the correction of the breaking. When out of this tikkun we get Atzilut Bria Yetzira Asiyah, 4 worlds. In the world's Bria Yetzira Asiyah, afterwards Adam was born, who also broke. The tikkun in the olamot, in the worlds, was made in the place עשייה, יצירה, בריאה, אצילות, אק. And Ein Sof. Up. And העולם הזה, this world, below. In the world Ak, we say that that's the world Keter, corresponding to the four phases of direct light. It is entirely bestowed from the Creator that's divided with respect to the future creature into Naran Chai. The world Atzilut is the world Ak, or Sag, the bestowal of Sag, which is divided into the bestowal in Galgalta Einaim toward the future creature, the creature that is risen from the breaking. Provided it rises to the world Atzilut and corrects himself there. The world's Bria Yetzira Asiya consist of Bina, Zan, Pin, and Malchut, these general attributes, in which we have the spiritual tikkun, correction of a person who already uses spiritual forces, the presence of the Creator. Yes, he can already correct himself. But as one corrects oneself, his soul, he does it in a state of having free choice, standing opposite the Creator, where the Creator who shines and shows himself in these worlds Bria Yetzira Asiya in such a way that he doesn't obstruct a person's free existence and reaching the world Atzilut. In order to correct himself, one must raise oneself along with the Galgalta Einaim and the Achab that join Galgalta Einaim, all except Leva Even, the stony heart, to the world Atzilut. Only Leva Even remains below. It cannot be corrected because it was never mixed with the attributes of Bina. When can one enter Bia and live in them? That's his place. That's where he was born, and that's where he should bring himself, into the world's Bia, and bring himself along with the world's Bia as he rises above the Parsa, as he was here on the eve of Shabbat, as we learned it, when he had to rise above the Parsa entirely. So how could he do that? Through tikkunim, during its ascent from below, from this world, to the world Asiya, and then Yetzira, and then Bria, and then above Parsa to Atzilut, and stand entirely, Adam Rishon, inside the world's Bia. These are the world's Bia, and that's Adam Rishon, inside Atzilut. What would remain outside of Atzilut, below Atzilut? The stony heart of each of them. The Leva Even from the worlds and the Leva Even from the souls. That is the corrected state, the most corrected state that can be reached. It is called the Gmar Tikkun, the end of correction, from the perspective of the lower ones. Afterwards comes an illumination from above called Rav Ba'alium Makabzel, which corrects the Leva Even too, and it is corrected too, and enters the world Atzilut, and then all the worlds rise to Ein Sof. Let's draw it so it becomes clearer to us, the whole process. We said that after the breaking of the vessels, Olam Atzilut came out. And the world Atzilut ascended in such a way that his zon rose up to the place of Abba ve'Ima. And then his zon procreated the worlds Bria, Yetzirah, and Asiyah. And these worlds stand up to Chazeh of the world Yetzirah, the permanent Chazeh of the world Yetzirah. And then these zon also procreated Adam Rishon in his Rosh, and his Garon, in his Guf, and the Raglaim. Then there was a luminescence from above, which is called the Eve of Shabbat, where all of them rose by 10 Sfirot. So Adam Rishon rose by 10 Sfirot, so that only his Raglaim remained below, and his Guf, his entire Guf, was up, and his Rosh rose to the place of the permanent Abba ve'Ima. This is called the first ascent, or the ascent of the eve of Shabbat. So when it was in that state, where his Rosh was entirely in Bina, and the Raglaim were in the Kelim of Bina, which are below the Parsa, but the Kelim of Bina are called the outskirts of the Eve of the city. In that state, he thinks he's entirely in the world of Atzilut, in the Garden of Eden, and can eat, meaning he's allowed to use the Kelim called his Raglaim, the actual Achap. So he uses them and breaks. When he breaks, the worlds descend to their permanent place. Asiyah, Yetzirah, Bria, Zon, Abba ve'Ima, Arichanpin, Atik, and here there is Ak. And besides this kav, line of Kedusha, of sanctity, there's another kav, another line of impurity. We learned that we have Bria, Yetzirah, Asiyah of Klipot, shells. This is what Adam Rishon caused in the world's Biyah, because he broke. Meaning, now that he is broken, in order to reach Biyah de Kedusha, he has to go through Biyah de Tumah, the impure Biyah. If the broken soul is here, it seemingly it has to go through Biyah de Tumah, the impure Biyah, in order to reach the pure Biyah, the Biyah de Kedusha. But this is still, as we've said, not enough. Adam has to be detached from the sensation of the Creator on him. He has to come to a situation where he's below any kedusha or klipa, any sanctity or impurity, because he feels both as the influence of the Creator on him. So he has to be between good and the bad that are completely detached from the Creator, and hence they are confused, and that's called this world. This is where the broken world is, meaning it is a state that is even worse than the breaking of the vessels in the world Nikudim, but it enables him to be completely detached from the Creator. When a person in our world, in this world, Ha'olam hazeh, this world, when a person acquires a masach, that person acquires masachim, screens, not to be in order to bestow. In order to bestow, those are screens, masachim, that can be acquired through an illumination from above. First, we have to acquire a masach, or the strength to be independent, independent of the Creator, because in that we become creatures. Meaning, becoming creatures is the goal that we are now faced with. So it doesn't matter how we feel, good or bad, we have to choose. Is it true or a false state? The scrutiny is completely different than the broken kelim had in the world Nikudim. Now we have to discern, reach a discernment of being independent from the Creator. And independence from the Creator means building within a completely different judging system than good or bad, because good or bad come from the kelim. The light that works on the kli gives it either a good or a bad sensation. Here we have to come to a state of true and false. Above good and bad, we build our attitude toward bestowal, and we call it truth. So then we have to detach ourselves completely from determining the situation according to our sensation, but only according to the discernment, to the qualitative discernment of the properties. Truth is giving, false is receiving. And this is called acquiring the masach over the kli. This masach is not just about not being influenced by pleasures. This masach is for not being influenced by the Creator. So then he acquires his selfness from the still degree to the vegetative to the animated, speaking with the masach to be independent from his own nature, in discerning the truth. When he acquires the first masach, to not be influenced by the kelim and the orot in his own nature, it is called crossing the machzon and becoming able to work or to stand vis-a-vis the Creator independently as a creature. And as he advances forward, he must create a partition between himself and the Creator to maintain his own independence. when he can handle it with his masach, then he enters between the worlds of Kedusha, purity, and Tumah, impurity, and he begins to advance. His progress between the two worlds is called advancing in the middle line. Until he reaches the world Ein Sof, where in fact he has acquired two things here. A kli, a vessel that gives and gives independently. It gives not because it is good, but because it is the truth. And when we've said that Adam's build-up, which is Galgal Ta'inaim and Achab that come from the Creator, but his choice and what he is, that's the Klipat Noga, the Noga show. Out of this, he built his self. When he reaches the scrutiny, when he scrutinizes all his kilim and is left only with a stony heart below, and the entire kli is corrected, except Leva Even, then, as we've said, a light that's called Rav Baliyom Makabteel comes, corrects Leva Even, and he rises entirely above Tzimtzum Aleph. He keeps it in all his parts through the Masach and no Chazer. And this is in fact keeping the thought of creation, to do good to his creation, in the tikkun of the kilim. In that, one is awarded correcting the kilim and directing the kilim himself independently, like the Creator in their entire koma. This tikkun, this correction, we study how it happens within us over thousands of years in this world, because here there's the concept of time and how it is called in the worlds. So next lesson we'll have to see how we go through this section called this world, Ha'olam Hazeh. Yes, how we come down to this world from the spiritual world after the breaking, how we go through it, and how we go back up from it to the tikkun in the olamot, in the worlds.